Like I said in the very first episode, whoever thought that I would be mature enough to handle the fact that I have a swivel chair is sorely mistaken. Hey everybody, welcome to Office Hours. I am back actually sitting in a chair and sitting in my actual office, as I'm super stoked about actually. Hold on, I gotta do this. So, Steph and I moved into a new place, so this is kind of, we actually share an office, so there's her stuff over there. Some of it's still a little messed up. I just finished filming the next week's video, so really excited about that. And then this side is my side of the office, so I actually have an office to hold office hours in. It's just great. Tons of the good stuff. In the last video, we talked about whether or not a two-party system was actually guaranteed. There were some really passionate and excited comments about this, so I'm really excited to get into it. Tiffany, you asked, as an independent, how much does my vote actually matter? Is it basically a protest vote? And in answer to your question, in terms of the presidential race, a vote for independent generally is a protest vote. It doesn't necessarily matter mathematically too much because there are just millions and millions and millions of people who are voting. But again, that's on the presidential level, that's on the national level. In terms of on the local level, where most of the laws that impact us happen, right, your vote for independent candidates actually matters a whole heck of a lot because there may only be a couple hundred people in the local area who are actually voting. So there, your voice really matters. And voting in independent ideas or independent policies or Republican or Democratic or whatever kind of policies you're interested in, that's where it's really going to manifest itself. Just like how in the video I discussed the anti-Masonic party, right? It started off as a local party that then grew to national prominence, and it's much the same way. Things start off local, and your impact is more concentrated on a local basis, but then things could possibly expand from there. Ashley Flynn asked 3 questions. One, she asked, how do we as people best try to get a system that is more representative of other people's voices? 2, she asked whether or not what would a multi-party system look like in the United States? And then 3, would the Electoral College still be in place? And I'm actually going to address these questions backwards, starting from the Electoral College and going back. Starting with the Electoral College, there's nothing inherent about the Electoral College that makes it anathema to a multi-party system. In fact, it was designed to deal with more than just 2 factions. You see that in the first few elections for president. So it's actually, it's not necessarily a terrible thing when you're dealing with a multi-party environment. It probably would stay in place if we had multi-parties in terms of the executive. Don't know if it would play a more interesting role, how things would have turned out with it, but I don't think that the Electoral College would be removed if we had multiple executive parties. Regarding what a flourishing multi-party environment would look like in the United States and what we would need to do about that, I think that a response by Bobby Murmur to your question really drills home at that, right? We would need to eliminate some of the systematic things because, like I said, Duverger's law, or first past the post rather, doesn't necessarily mandate that you're going to have two-partyism. But the thing is that it's still a systematic bias, right? It doesn't necessarily guarantee it, but it's still a huge hurdle. So if your normative goal is to have multiple parties in government, then if you really want to facilitate that and have a flourishing multi-party environment, you're really going to need to remove the systematic barriers to that sort of end. In terms of how we as people can change our behavior in order to facilitate more representativeness, there's a couple of things that can be said about that. And one thing that can be said, though, before I name all of them, is that a lot of people who tend to believe more in the third parties or the alternative parties, or who tend to be more politically independent, tend to forget that the vast preponderance of people actually do align with either the Democrats or the Republicans. Like, the vast majority of Americans do. So it's not so much that this system is like wholesale making Americans feel like they're not being represented, it's just that there is a significant plurality of individuals who feel like their voice doesn't matter as much, which it's a problem too, but it's a completely different problem than to say that a lot of people most people don't have their voices heard. I'm not saying that Ashley was saying this, but it is a refrain that I hear rather often. I just wanted to first address and clarify that. In terms of the behaviors that what we can do in order to try to facilitate this, you could be active in your local government, try to bring about candidates who are, in terms of what we can do, right, one of the big things that we can do is to try to raise awareness for the existence of these parties and to try to support them through the nascent stages of the campaigns. So few people actually attended the Green Party or the name escapes me right now, or the Libertarian Party's convention. So few people actually attended those events. So it's really important that if you want to help these organizations be able to grow and to be able to have the people who are actually aligned with these organizations have their voices heard in terms of platforms, or have their voices influenced where the two major parties orient themselves ideologically, then working on the ground level is a really, really strong way to be able to get that. Another option is to find those individuals who you're friends with who seem like they'd be more preferencing third-party options but are still kind of on the fence about them, to talk to them, to talk with them about that particular choice or that potential choice. Because there have been studies that show that the more people in your immediate network who endorses the idea of a third party and who indicate that they will vote for a third party, the more likely that you are going to vote for a third party, because it kind of makes the weight of that rational pressure kind of fall off your shoulders a little bit. You no longer feel like your vote is wasted because all these other people that you know are also performing in the same way. It's kind of a more sociological way of looking at voting. So that's again another way to be able to do that. There's a whole bunch of ways, but if I were to say the most important one, it would probably be the activism level, to be able to raise awareness, and then to actually talk with individuals who have predilections towards those political orientations, to be able to make them have the confidence to express their opinion, to express their voice in the poll. Robert Murmer has this fantastic comment dealing with the idea of Duverger's law and two-party systems in the United States and abroad that I really didn't touch on in the video, nor did I even honestly know on some of these nuances. So it's just so fantastic to learn these things and have some of your views corrected. I just highly recommend reading them. He does make one point that I think we really need to drive home, and that is that Jill Stein nor Gary Johnson are going to win the presidency. And I mean, onto that point, he's absolutely right. The odds of either of them winning the presidency are just diminutive. They're super, 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 super low. And that's one of the things I was trying to bring apart in my video, is that we have to try to convince millions or tens of millions of individuals to move past the historic two-party trend in a single 4-year election cycle. That's not going to happen. It's not going to happen in 2016. It may not happen. It's probably not going to happen in 2020 or 2024. But that's really not what the point is. Most of the stuff that impacts us happens on the local level, and it's only from there that it begins to percolate up to the national level. So Duverger's law is super effective in terms of the presidential race. It absolutely is going to effectively guarantee that a Democrat or a Republican is going to win the White House. But it does not guarantee that you're going to have two parties forever and always and at all levels of government. There is still a lot of sway on the local level. I'm going to leave an Imgur image to this post I received on Facebook in response to the video. Just wow, by Tyler Viergain. It is just wow. When I saw the alert on Facebook, right, that it had been pinged and said you have received this comment, and I read the comment regarding this video, and oh, just wow, that was just so great to read. Again, another one of those things like Bobby's that are just so rich and filled with information and filled with an interesting point of view that I just could not recommend reading enough. So the link will be down in the doobly-doo for you to be able to find that comment and read it. Just fantastic comment. Could not recommend reading enough. Go do it right now. I mean, watch the rest of the video, but then do it right now. Speaking of Facebook, that is indeed the hint for the Null Prize, something to do with Facebook and politics. I wonder if anybody will be able to guess and to see what the topic for the next video will be. That is the hint for the Null Prize this week. So yeah, see if you can suss out what's going to be discussed in the next video. That just about wraps it up for Office Hours this week. Thank you so much for watching. On the blog this week, there is an interesting post dealing with Bayes' theorem and Tropical Storm Julia and the implications that has for our beliefs on global warming. I just something that I was inspired to write. I think you guys might find that interesting. But again, thank you so much for watching, and thank you guys for your comments. I love reading them. I love having my mind open by them, and just having to answer these questions just makes me think about these issues in a whole bunch of different ways. And I hope that me answering them kind of helps clarify for you as well, and kind of expands all of our horizons on these issues, because they are interesting and they are exciting, and it's just so fantastic. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video or you enjoyed the other video, I hope you consider liking them and subscribing to the channel. As always, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.